Welcome back to Thriftism. If this is your first time here, be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our latest videos. Today we are working on making a cat cheese ball. This is in preparation for our cat-themed bachelorette party. This could also be used for birthday parties or just anybody who likes cats, really. So a few things you're going to need is 8 ounces of sharp cheddar, some cumin, some onion, some salsa, and some cream cheese. Don't worry, you don't need quite this much cream cheese, but it was a lot cheaper to buy it at Sam's Club in 3 pounds. It was like the same price as buying 16 ounces from the store. The only thing I didn't realize is it comes in one big block. So we'll actually have to cut this apart versus having the individual packs. Still worth the price savings because now I can make maybe a cheesecake or something later. But you'll need 16 ounces of cream cheese and some, I mentioned onion, and then we will want some blue corn tortilla chips. So we're using this to make our cat black on the outside, or blue rather, I guess. But we'll be crushing these up and surrounding the outside to make it a little less sticky and to give it a more cat-like look. So we will go ahead and get started. Keep in mind with our 16 ounces of cream cheese here, we will want to set aside 2 to 3 tablespoons of that, and we'll be using that for the whiskers and the cat's eyes. We're actually going to start with our onion. We're using kind of the small grate holes here, and we're just going to grate this because we want about a tablespoon of this really finely ground so it mixes in. You don't have a chunky cheese ball. You can also use a food processor if you have one, or a blender, such as a Ninja, which you can kind of see on the edge of the screen here. But for those of you who don't, we'll just go ahead and keep grinding away at this, and you'll want a tablespoon of your onion, and then we'll come back once we have that grated. Okay, so we finished grating our onion. You can see maybe here I have a nice tablespoon of this kind of pureed onion. Be aware you probably will have to take a break if you have an onion like mine, unless you have really mild onions. Maybe you're like me and you're crying right now after that. If you do use a food processor, be aware when you take that lid off, that's all going to hit you at once. Versus when you grate, you at least can feel the eye burn coming on, so be careful when you're opening the food processor or blender. But we'll go ahead and put our grated onion in our bowl here, and then we are going to pull out our cream cheese here. And like I said, we just have a giant block, so we're going to cut that up and get my onion and my oniony cutting tray out of the way here, because I don't need all of my cream cheese to smell like onion. Grab another cutting board and or knife. Alright, so I'll probably want this second line for the total amount of cream cheese we're going to use. So before I tear the packaging all the way off, I'm going to make a cut mark so I know where I'm stopping. And you can just destroy the packaging like I did. Ideally, you'll keep it so you can re-wrap up the remaining cream cheese. But I'm just having that kind of day. I'm just destroying everything. But we'll go ahead and cut this block here. Try and get it close. Obviously, this isn't like an exact science. It's a cheese ball, so give or take a little bit will be all right. I'll try and get it as close as possible here. And then once we have that, I'm going to go ahead and package this back, store it in the box. I'll probably use it soon, otherwise I would store it in kind of a pyrex or something so it doesn't go bad. But now that we have this, we will want to keep aside a couple spoonfuls or tablespoons of this for our eyeballs. I'm just going to guess, I don't think it'll make that big of a difference, but we will have whiskers and eyes, so I'm going to take a fair amount. I don't think we will miss it in the cheese ball, so I'm just going to keep this in a pyrex and set that off to the side. With the rest of this now, we will want to go ahead and add that to our onions in the bowl. Just kind of pick it up, plop it in there. Probably would have been easier if I cut it up a little bit, but I'll cut it up in the bowl. And then we're going to use our shredded cheese here, which should be about 2 cups. You can add kind of to taste. If you want, you can leave a little bit behind so it doesn't overdo it, but we'll add most of this in there. I'd say at least 1.5 cups, if not the whole 2 cups. Again, I'm just kind of doing this by eyesight here. If you add the whole thing, it'll probably just make it easier for you. We'll reserve just a little bit in case I want to use it for decoration though. So once we have that in there, then we are going to get our salsa and our cumin. So I'm going to do the cumin first, just in case I need the measuring spoon. That we want 2 teaspoons of cumin. And you want to be really careful with this, because if you add too much cumin, it'll really be flavorful. Like, cumin is a strong spice, so make sure it's a teaspoon and not like a tablespoon or something. And if you want, you could even start with less, mix it all together, and then taste it after you're done. After the cumin, we are going to add some salsa. Doesn't really matter what kind you use. I'm just using our homemade salsa. We use Miss Wages with our own tomatoes and stuff. We just really like the flavor of that, but you can use anything you want. And we're going to use a tablespoon of salsa. I have a 1/2 tablespoon here, so I'll put 2 of those in. Set that off to the side. And then you can either use a mixer for this if you don't want to mix it by hand, or you can go ahead and start cutting it in together and mixing it up. If you're smart, which I wasn't, take the cream cheese out of the fridge a little bit earlier so it's a little bit softer to work with. But this is going to be solved by just letting it sit out for a little bit longer. I mean, like, instead of mixing it right now, I could just let it sit for a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and start trying to cut it in just so I can get going on the rest of the products for the cat party. But you can see, just cut it together, then we'll mix it up, and you can either chill that for a little bit. I would recommend forming it into a ball before you chill it. So I will come back when I'm ready to put it into a ball. Alright, so now we have it mixed very thoroughly here, and I did end up just using my hands. It mushes together really nicely like that. We're going to take this out, and we want to form this into as much of a ball as we can. If you want, you could wrap it in saran wrap and kind of use that to roll it around better. We're going to try and see if we can do this just by hand first, just less waste, but if that is easier for you, feel free to do that. Move the bowl out of the way. So I'll just kind of roll this in my hands to try to get kind of a ball shape. Again, this doesn't need to be an exact science here, you know, it's just kind of close enough, right? So I'm going to call this like pretty good with the ball I have. So I'll just set that in the bowl for right now. I'm going to wash my hands, and then I'm going to crush up these blue cheese tortilla, or blue corn tortilla chips. So I've gone ahead and I've crushed up our blue corn tortilla chips in our Ninja just to get it finely ground. This again, if you're using saran wrap, you could pour it on there and then roll it around. I'm just going to pour it over the top, and I will probably need more, but I didn't want to blend up more chips than I needed because full chips are more useful than ground up corn chips. So I'm just going to go ahead and start pushing those into my cheese ball here. Roll it around in the bowl. And it sticks fairly well, so you can see like it's already starting to get that purpley blue black look. So you just want to keep going until it's covered to what you would like to see. A thicker look will give more, or like more will give us more solid cat look. I am trying to get the bottom too because I don't know what I'm going to serve this on yet, and we won't be using it until tomorrow. So I'm actually going to put it on the bottom of a pyrex bowl and then top it with the bowl just to use as a transport method. So it looks like I actually did crush up enough, and this was just a handful of chips. It was probably 10 or so, so you don't need to do the whole bag. So don't put the whole bag in because that will be a waste unless you're going to plan on making a lot of these in the future. So I'm just going to keep adding this on, and then we'll pipe on the eyes and the whiskers next. You'll also want to pick through the bag and find kind of the nicest full tortilla chips first, and we'll use those as the ears. So that's more important, that those are nicer versus the ones you blend up can just be the crumbs or whatever. You can see I'm just kind of mushing this in. A lot of the chips are not sticking anymore, so I'm just trying to keep mushing to get as much coverage as I can. To pipe the eyes and the whiskers then, you can either use a piping tool, like you can kind of see below my hand here, or, and I think we're going to call this good because it's not sticking very much anymore. Try and mush a few more in. You can see it's a little bit of a mess to make, but I'll just want to double check that you still have kind of the shape you want to go with. And then I'm going to go ahead and put it on the tray I'm going to transport it on. And I think I might wait to put the ears in until right before we serve it. Just because these will get more soggy, but we'll do something, let's see if we can prop it up for you a little bit. We'll do something just like this and put the ears in, but we will go ahead and pipe the eyes and the whiskers on. And so I'm going to use this. If you don't have one of these, which most people don't, you can also use something like this. So you'll just put cream cheese in here and then cut off the corner. So we'll want to, you can either take a little scoop out or just kind of push in where you think you want the eyes to be. And you'll just want that so you can fill them in better. And then I'm also planning to use a chip for the nose. If you want, you could get food dye to make it black, or you can just arrange chips. And then for the eyeballs, you can also use, either use fragments of chips, or you could use an olive. So I'm getting distracted as I'm finding my nose here. With this, it would probably help to fill it a little bit fuller instead of trying to press so hard at the end here. You will want to make sure the cream cheese is softened a little bit on this. So we'll go ahead and pipe it in. Whew. I might need to add some more because it's coming out very difficult, so I'll do that and then we'll continue piping. Okay, so the piping didn't work super well because the cream cheese just stayed too thick. So I actually made them by rolling the cream cheese into little balls. You can kind of see here, still thick enough. We're still going to use the piping tip here. We're just going to cheat a little bit because it just doesn't go through the, I don't know what these are actually called. The piping thing. I know it has a name, but I don't know it. But anyway, so I'm just going to use my fingers and kind of push it through like that. So we have a general kind of nose area. You can kind of see where that chip is. I might switch it out for, I might use some of that leftover cheddar cheese in there. I haven't decided yet. But we have a general location, so we can just squeeze this through. You see I have nice long strings now. So we'll go ahead and do a couple of those, and that will give us our whiskers here. Get them on without pulling off too many of the chips. You want to be careful because if you roll these in them, then it loses its white and it just is covered in chips, like I said. But you will want to try and stick it down a little bit, otherwise it's just really not on there. But we'll go ahead and do that a few more times. These chips really like to stick to your fingers too, so there might be chips in ours anyway, but we'll keep going with it. Get a few strings. And it could just be that I'm not being patient enough to wait for the cheese to soften enough to use the piper. I know that's not what it's called. The decorator, I don't know. I'm not a cook or chef. I'm not a baker. I'm just trying to make a cat. So if you don't like that, I don't know the name, that's just too bad. Or you're in the wrong place. But my hands are super sticky from this now, and so the cheese is actually trying to stick to me more than to the chips. So I think we'll just have to be really careful when we transport it. I'm also going to use this to make the mouth, and I'll zoom in and actually show you a picture here once I'm done. It's hard to adjust the camera when I'm doing this because, as you can see, my hands are like disgusting, covered in cheese. And again, if you want to use black food coloring, feel free to do that to try and get a more, so it works really well to mush it on the back of a single chip. See if I can mush that in there to hold it. It's still falling apart, so this is not going to be our best way of doing it, but these are all sorts of covered in chips, so it's not as ideal as I would like, but we at least have kind of a face going on now. Said I'd like if these whiskers stick a little bit more, but I think I might need to use a different color for the nose because you can't see it super well. So we'll turn it around for you here. And that is what we have so far. Like I said, the whiskers are really thick, but maybe once we have two like cat ears here, it'll be a little bit better. Not super cute, I'm not in love with it, but it'll get the job done. Be kind of a cute little cat party favor. So then tomorrow we'll go ahead and stick the ears in. If you wanted, you could try and use the cheddar cheese for the nose, or you could dye it black or something like that. It might also be worth trying to cut in the whiskers just to get those in there better, or even cutting these piping to get them a little bit thinner. But overall, it's a cheese ball that will kind of sort of look like a cat once it has ears. So I'm going to go ahead and serve it with crackers. You could also serve it with chopped up vegetables or with the remaining tortilla chips if you want to make the best use of what you bought. So thank you for joining me, and be sure to check out the other cat related videos.